Hey everybody, welcome back to HemingwayLand.com, your source for quality, affordable land in the state of New Mexico. Got another new property out in Socorro County. Socorro County, of course, famous because it has zero planning and zoning restrictions, as you can see from the headline. These types of properties tend to appeal to a lot of our buyers, so whenever possible, I like to buy these up, I like to list them, and I like to sell them to you guys. As you can see from the headline, this one is close to power, no power on the property lot line, but pretty close by. So we'll get into that and more later in this video. For now, let's introduce this land. This is reference number SCNM5318, located in Socorro County, as noted. It is a 1-acre lot in the Rio Grande Estate subdivision. This is the sub that sits to the east of the I-25. And as you saw up top, this 1-acre lot is priced at $1,500. Let's bring this up on a map, show you guys exactly where this is. As with all of our listings, we have GPS coordinates down here. Click them, and the property comes up on Google Maps. Unlike our other listings, however, we only have the center point for this property. We do not have the corner points, and I will get into why a little bit later in this video. For now, let's talk about where exactly this is. So, zoom back a little bit and give you a sense of where this is in New Mexico first before we get into specifics. For those who are unfamiliar, this is down here in Socorro County, sitting about 40 miles south of Albuquerque. I'm sure everybody knows Albuquerque, up here in the north central part of the state. If you right-click and measure distance, you can see that, as I just indicated, it's about 40 miles south as the crow flies. Of course, this property is sort of within the I-25 corridor, so if you need to get back and forth to Albuquerque, if you work up there and you're going to live out here or start building out here, should be pretty easy to do. Just taking the I-25 up, probably do about 75 miles an hour the whole way, get there pretty fast. If, however, you don't like sitting in traffic, you've always got the option of the nearby Rio Metro, which has stations down here in Belen and Los Lunas. You can take that up into Albuquerque, so if you don't like fighting the traffic, that is always an option. Additionally, with the property sitting this close to the I-25, you're going to have some quick trips down here in the south to nearby, hello, here it is, Elephant Butte Lake. Elephant Butte Lake, of course, is the largest body of water in the state. This is about 90 miles south of the property. So good place to plan your weekends, to go on weekends for boating, fishing, jet skiing, camping, RVing, so on and so forth. But the land itself sits up here closest to Belen. This would be your nearest small town. So if you're wondering where you're going to be going for groceries and supplies, it's probably here nearby Belen. I'll have you guys know that there is a super Walmart, not only in Los Lunas up here, but also down here in Socorro, down here. So super Walmarts in both directions, probably about equidistant from both, where, of course, you can stock up on more supplies and groceries and whatnot, building supplies, things like that. The specific property sits in the Rio Grande Estate subdivision. I've done roughly about a bajillion videos on this sub before because these properties are so popular that we buy them, we sell them, we buy more, so on and so forth. But what's important to know about this area is that you've got a subdivision that's occupying almost all of this space right here that I'm circling. Developer came in back in the 60s, chopped everything up into 1-acre lots. So you've got the advantage right here of, after New Mexico changed a lot of its laws in the 1970s as far as how what you could build on quote, undeveloped land without city utilities nearby like sewer and water. Because they changed a lot of those rules in the 70s, it made land like what you'll find up here in nearby Valencia County pretty much useless. The developers over-divided this, chopped everything up into 1/4 and 1/2 acre lots. You don't have that problem down here in Rio Grande Estates. These 1-acre lots are big enough that you're going to be able to do whatever you want without having to worry about the environmental concerns of what sort of septic am I installing, how far is it from the well that I have on the property, so on and so forth. So it's one of the nice things about this subdivision, which continues to make it valuable to this day. Now, the property that we're offering here is in Unit 1. Unit 1 sits very close here to Highway 60. I like buying properties closer to Highway 60 because what you'll find down here is, number one, because it is so close to the road, you've got people living out here, as you can kind of see by all these little lots that are out here that I'm kind of pointing out on this thing. Because people are living out there, what it means is that the roads are more well-trafficked, so they're easier for the next person to drive, number one. Number two, they're usually living out there because that is where power is. It's a big subdivision. Power doesn't extend all the way through it, but it certainly extends at least about this far, every road, every other road, so on and so forth. So it's one of the nice things because you can get around out there. It's pretty easy to hook up power when you do eventually build, etc. Now, this subject property sits off of a road which the plat identifies as Maldonado Road. Couple things I want to make you guys aware of. As noted earlier, there's no power at the lot line. This is, you're starting to get up into the further northern points of the subdivision. That being said, power very close by here along this area where you have these properties. There's power down this way, power obviously at each of these homesteads, etc. And that is roughly only about a quarter of a mile if we measure distance, and roughly about 1,200 feet, a quarter of a mile, something like that, out to those properties. So may not be the most difficult thing in the world to get power extended out to the subject property, though I would say, you know, we have other lots in the subdivision that have power. You may want to look at those if you do want to be hooked up to the grid. If you don't care about that, if you want to use the more affordable alternative of solar, this may be the better choice for you. Now, additionally, I also want to make you guys aware that over here you have Escobar Street, which kind of snakes up through the subdivision. You're going to be taking off this little road right here, and you're going to be making your way out this way. You will notice there's some arroyos out here that you're going to have to pass. If you've got a big enough truck, you will be able to handle that. That being said, there are paths that you can make for yourself, specifically coming in off Escobar, making this way out to the property, here, and then up to here. It should be noted that for however difficult access may look for some parts of this area, this is a master planned subdivision, master platted subdivision as well. So all of these properties have legal access. You're not going to have to cross someone else's private property to get to yours, FYI. If you go to map view here, you're not going to see a plat overlay of the land. It's just this sort of void. So what I will do is direct your attention to this part of the listing page where we have the handy Google Earth overlay giving you a sense of the exact size, shape, location of this lot. Additionally, you can kind of compare and contrast that with the plat map that we have here in the gallery. This is the bigger version, which will show you exactly where this is. Here's Highway 60 down here. Here's that road that I was referencing earlier. And as you can see, this lot is located here off of Maldonado. Additionally, the next image of the gallery is kind of a zoomed in version of the plat map where you can see more about the precise location of that. Additionally, as with all of our properties, we have photos taken from the land. This specifically is the entrance here off of Highway 60. So you've got the highway right here. You've got a really well-maintained road right here. And then as you enter off into the subdivision, very well-maintained, easily navigated roads. Any type of vehicle can traverse them. You don't need just some kind of large truck to be able to do that. If you go through these, what you're going to see, this is sort of what Maldonado looks like out here. So as you can see, you've got a flat, arid, climate out here, flat land, arid climate out here. So it's not like things are going to grow over on this road. It's not like you can't drive this road. That being said, as noted earlier, it is a legal easement. It is it's just not something that the county's out there maintaining every couple months. So point is, it looks like this. It doesn't mean you can't drive it. It just means, it's just not the most well-maintained road within the subdivision, but easy to navigate according to my photographer. One thing I'll point out to you here is you'll notice there's sort of a property stake right here on the land. That's what these look like to me. That being said, when my photographer goes out there, he doesn't walk the length of a 1, a 5, or a 10-acre property or whatever it is we're selling. He doesn't look for these things. Additionally, I don't like to sell properties to buyers with the expectation that, oh yeah, there's totally property stakes out there, there's totally boundary stakes. When you have a subdivision like this, it was, the developer probably staked all these lots back in the 70s. But a lot of things have happened in the last 50 years. Some of those stakes have probably been stolen. Some have been overgrown with shrub or bush or things like that. You might be able to find 1 or 2. It's questionable you would find all 4. So if you're thinking about buying this property or any of our other lots in Rio Grande Estates, I don't want to lead you to believe that, these things have been pre-staked. If you're lucky, maybe you'll find them. If you're lucky, maybe this will be one of them and you'll have 3 others out there. But I don't want to represent this as if we definitely know that they're there and we're definitely selling it that way. So just an FYI. While we talk about that, as you can see here in the photos, these are some of the nearby power lines as noted about a quarter mile away. Additionally, the big takeaway here with these properties out here in Socorro County is that you've got a lot of flat, what I like to call buildable land. It's not the kind of thing where you're going to have to come in and do a lot of, quote unquote, landscaping work to get this thing livable, to get, a small chunk of an area where you can start building or where you can park whatever it is, a mobile home or an RV, if you're going to just be using this land for camping purposes. We have a lot of buyers who come to us. They're, cross-country truckers. They drive trucks cross-country, and they just want a piece of property that's somewhere on their route that they could just park the truck at. They don't have to worry about hotels. They don't have to worry about things like that. And so this is obviously the kind of property that you can get a big rig onto, and you're not going to have to worry about it too much. As noted, a lot of flat land, easy to build out here. Also, you've got nice views of the Manzano Mountains here off in the near distance. And here in the photos, you can see this would may or may not be a property marker, as well as the nearby power lines servicing those homes just about a quarter mile away. Yes. Anyway, again, I will let you guys review the photos on your own time. That being said, as noted there from the property. Now, one thing I want to talk about here, as noted up here in the headline, free of planning and zoning restrictions. I want you guys to know this is not something that we just throw around. Lately, I've been listing a lot of properties that happen to fall under this designation because I know how much you guys like that. I know how much you don't want rules, you don't want regulations, you don't want an HOA, you don't want any dues, things like that. So you'll be glad to know that when we say this about this property, I specifically like to reference my buyers to the Socorro County, quote, planning and zoning website, which will bring it up here. As noted here, quote unquote, Socorro County does not have a zoning or permitting ordinance at this time. There are no county regulations or restrictions on the use of real property, blah, blah, blah. So, let's be clear about certain things. There's federal law, there's environmental law, there's building codes. It's not to say that you could do whatever crazy nonsense you want to do, but most things that you cannot do in other parts of the state. And I always like to point to tiny homes. A lot of parts of different counties will have restrictions, minimum square footage restrictions. It tends to rule out the ability to build a tiny home. Shipping container homes, a lot of counties have, permitting hurdles to get one of those things done. Or just living for indiscriminate periods of time out of an RV. A lot of people just want to go camp for a month in New Mexico, then go back north where they live, or they want to take it out there in the wintertime when it's warmer than where they're from. Those are things you're going to have the ability to do out there. That is what a do whatever you want with your real property sort of thing means. But take note, they do also have things here about liquid waste, about septic permits, things like that. Obviously, those are environmental rules, things that you'll have to abide by. But when you have a piece of property that is at least this big, at least 1 acre, those become a lot easier things to deal with. Permitting process is a lot easier, a lot more affordable, etc. So anyway, with all that said, I just want to point out some helpful links here for you guys. As noted, as far as utilities go, not on the property, about a quarter mile away, but PNM is going to be the local utility company that services this region. Click on that link. It'll bring up their website. As noted, we've got other properties in this subdivision that'll have power at the lot line. Those are probably more affordable to get power extended out to. So this is probably a property better for solar. But maybe a quarter mile isn't a big deal. Maybe they can come out and do that for, an amount of money that you find reasonable. Call them up, talk to them about it first, see if it is something that you're going to be able to afford, either, money-wise or just logistically, the headache of dealing with it. Talk to them about what's involved with that. Say, hey, I've got some land down here in Socorro County, just north of the 60. You guys have got power lines about a quarter mile away from it. How hard is it going to be to get hooked up to the grid? How expensive is that? What should I be aware of? And they can direct you better on those questions than I can. Number two, also down here, we have the Office of the State Engineer. We have this link as well as these two right here about permitting applications on all of our listing pages. Some buyers want to do holding tanks, some buyers less in New Mexico, but some buyers want to do rainwater catchment systems. Whatever the case, if you are going to drill a well, whether that's residential or commercial, anywhere in the state of New Mexico, this is the office that you want to talk to. Of course, I think a better resource is calling local vendors, local companies that actually drill wells in that area, and just talk to them about, hey, I'm buying some land in this specific part of the world, Rio Grande Estates, just north of the 60. What's the water table like out there? How hard is it going to be for me to drill a well? How far down do I have to drill, and what does it cost per foot of drilling? What do you anticipate this will cost me? What I find is that when you have an area like this where you'll see homestead after homestead after homestead, I mean, maybe not all these people have wells, but I'm going to guess that enough of these people have wells to suggest that the water table is accessible here. And by the way, it's pretty lush and green right over here. There's a lot of people living in this area and certainly within this I-25 corridor. So I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that the water table may be accessible. But of course, that's one of those expenses you kind of want to figure out in advance before you maybe hand over the money to buy the land. As always, we say due diligence is a buyer's responsibility for a variety of reasons. Number one, because we can't anticipate every question that we're going to get. And number two, Honestly, sometimes the answers you get on a Monday are different than the answers you get on a Tuesday. And if anyone's going to mislead you about our properties, we'd prefer it be the county or local vendors or local utility companies or whoever. We tell you what we know about it, but we kind of limit our research. By the way, guys, I mentioned at the start of the video, we only have 1 GPS coordinate on this as opposed to 5 corner points and center point. This is the center point of the property. I just want to explain this. We have a little paragraph up here you can read about this specific issue. Socorro County is one of the few counties in the state, or really in the country, that does not interface with our software. There's a lot of software out there that can sort of map out properties and figure out where exactly things are located to help us give you that kind of information. Socorro County does not interface with that software. So in order to get these coordinates, we have to call the county itself. We have to call their GIS office. And, that might sound like a greater authority to you than, whatever software that we have. I don't think it is. Or at least let me say this. I have an obligation to tell you, the coordinates as accurately as I can. Socorro County doesn't have that obligation when they're talking to us. So they give us a GPS coordinate, and we'll kind of look at it on the plat map here and say, does that look like where this thing would be roughly X, yards away from whatever nearest landmark? And if it looks right, we go with it. Generally speaking, they do. But that being said, I've had people who've bought land out here in Socorro County, and maybe, the GPS coordinates indicated it was this property, but it was actually this one when they got it surveyed. I recommend to all of our buyers, if you're going to start building on a piece of property, if you are going to put up a fence designating this chunk of dirt is mine and that chunk of dirt is somebody else, you really want a surveyor out there to tell you. Even when we can provide you with 5 GPS coordinates, they're pretty good. They're pretty accurate. But you have this disconnect of a one-dimensional map on a 3-dimensional globe, and ultimately there's going to be, a hair's breadth of difference on these things. So the GPS coordinates we always provide, as we always disclose, are approximates. Use them to just kind of find the property. But if you are going to start building on it, that's something you're going to want a professional surveyor to tell you about. Blah, blah, blah. All right, guys, with all that said, if this is something that you're interested in purchasing, come up here, click the Buy Now button. It's going to take you to a secure checkout page. We're going to ask you for a couple pieces of information. What name or names do you want on the deed up here in this field? And then tax address. Taxes on this property are only $20 a year. That's $10 in the spring, $10 in the fall. Pretty easy to deal with. But where's Socorro County going to send that tax bill? That's what we need to know. You click this here, agree to our terms of service, click next, and on the next page you will enter credit or debit card information to purchase the property. We are the owners of the property, so once you give us the money, as far as we are concerned, you are now the owner. Go out there, knock your socks off, do whatever you like, start building, start hanging out, start partying. That being said, it's going to be about 3 weeks before we have the recorded deed in your hands. And the way that process works is you give us money. Within 24 hours, we're going to have an email to you with a copy of the new deed, along with some supplemental docs. Once you approve everything, we autograph it, we notarize it, we mail it off to the county records it, and then they forward it on to you. So that's why I always say about 3 weeks from start to finish before you will have that, hard copy in your hands. But as noted earlier, once you give us money, the property's yours as far as we're concerned. All right, guys, so with all that said, thanks for watching. If you have any more questions, leave a comment here on the YouTube. Give us a call, 702-919-7170, or shoot us an email at support@hemingwayland.com. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see you in the next video.